الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
بسم الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وخليله من خلقه صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. MashaAllah, I'm so sorry I haven't been to this community. I see many faces I recognize. I love you all dearly. I miss you all dearly. SubhanAllah, it's beautiful to see you on this beautiful Friday. Jazakumullah khairan for being here. You know, I say this at a lot of khutbahs. It's both exciting to see Muslims and depressing sometimes because, you know, out of the 1.8 billion Muslims in the world, over here in the States, we have anywhere between, 10 to 15 million Muslims. Some say up to 20 million, all right? And in Southern California, some say 1 to 2 million Muslims, all right? Let's just say 2 million, 3 million Muslims, whatever, we'll give us 3. Of the 3 million Muslims in Southern California, of all of the masajid, you look around and see who's coming to the masjid. And on Fridays, SubhanAllah, even our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ taught us, of the people that are going to Jannah, of the billions and trillions of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, it's qaleel, a small group of them from the end. That's kind of terrifying when you think about, of all of the trillions of people that were created by Allah, hundreds of billions maybe, who knows, Allah alam when the day of judgment will be. Of all of his creation of the human beings, a small group will enter Jannah. A small group will enter Jannah. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from that small group that enters Jannah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you for being here on the day of Friday, on a blessed day. So I'm happy to see you all, but the topic today, it would be a travesty if we didn't talk about Palestine. And honestly, this is the only topic that matters for quite some time. And this khutbah is not about Palestine, actually, and it's not about the Palestinians, and it's not about the people of Gaza. And in all honesty, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of you and me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Islam and so on, it's a relatively minor issue. Because the people throughout all of history, Muslims have been persecuted and believers have been persecuted from now until eternity. It'll happen. At the time of the Prophet, before Islam even was established as a religion in Medina, people were chopped in half, people were cut, people were burned, people were stabbed, people were thrown into the fire. And believers before Islam were tossed directly into the fire over a bridge if they mentioned anything that against status quo and against the belief at that time, they were immediately targeted. Today in the US, we talk a lot about Islamophobia. We talk a lot about being targeted as Muslims. And I'll tell you this, of the targeting that we get, wallahi, it's chump change. I swear to you, it's the worst that can happen is HR reprimands us for making a post online. We live a very comfortable, easy life here, with due respect. And I was born and raised here. And for the brothers and sisters that immigrated from overseas, wallahi, you guys had a very, very difficult time coming to this country. You came at a time pre-9/11 where no one even knew about Islam. They were still calling us Mohammedans, and they thought we worshiped the sun god. Wallahi, I remember giving dawah early on, pre-9/11 and post-9/11. I swear to God, people thought we worshiped the sun. Wallahi, they thought Allah was the sun in Arabic, and they thought we worshiped the sun. But you know what happened? 9/11 happened, and this was a terrifying moment for Muslims, obviously in Iraq, because in Afghanistan, they got the brunt of it. Millions of Muslims killed by the hands of our country. But over here in the States, you know what happened? 34,000 Americans became Muslim. 34,000 Americans became Muslim in the States post 9/11. Do you know what people say about Allah now? They know that He is God. They know that Muslims worship the God of Abraham and the God of Moses. And now I'll never get this sun God nonsense. I'll never be called Mohammedan. And now the discourse has changed. The discourse has changed. 9/11 was a catastrophe, brothers and sisters. Millions dead. And of the millions killed by our country, I'll tell you, hundreds of thousands and millions of Muslims became stronger Muslims and stronger believers. And thousands of people that were non-Muslims have now entered the folds of Islam. It's a tough pill to swallow. The issue of Palestine and Gaza, in its own, if we just look at it in its own, we're missing the picture. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not demand results from you. He demands effort from you. There is a difference. We're reminded by this, and we're taught by the story of Sitna Maryam. Mary, peace be upon her, is at the base of a palm tree when she just gave birth to Jesus, peace be upon him. Isa alayhi salam is in her lap. She had just given birth to him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells her what? Tells a woman who just gave birth. And for any of you who are married, you know that traumatizing scene. If you are a father in the room, and obviously our sisters know it better than us, you remember that scene. It is traumatic for both parties. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells her what? هُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ تُسَاقَطْ عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells her, shake this tree over here and fruit will come down. Imagine this, a woman that was just giving birth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects her to shake a tree for fruit to come down? What are you talking about? What woman who just gave birth can do that and shake a palm tree? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not expect results. He expects effort. Effort from you and I, from the Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, Ya ayyuhal muddathir qum fa'anzir, or you who are wrapped up in garments after he was given revelation, get up and warn. The effort is more important than the results. And brothers and sisters, this has happened in the past. In the year 1096, let's back up for a sec. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was born in the year 570, a joyous, momentous year. 40 years later, he became the Prophet, 610. 26 years later, Jerusalem was ours. Imagine this, Bedouin Arabs who couldn't do jack squat, who were infighting left and right on a daily basis, arguing over nonsense, would build gods out of date seeds, would make wood and rocks and put them together and worship these gods. They would bury their daughters alive. Bedouin Arabs that didn't know the rest of the world even existed for that matter. They were in their own little world. 26 years and they conquered Jerusalem. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Brothers and sisters, this is not about Palestine. We are misguided if we think that this is just about this situation now. This test is about our effort. What will you and I do for the people? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expecting you and I to give effort for the cause. This is not the first test that we go through. 20 years ago, 15 years ago was Iraq, and then Afghanistan, and Chechnya before that, and Kashmir before that, and Sudan, and Libya, and honestly, wherever you're from. All right, this is the situation of the Muslims. This is our situation. Today, it's Gaza. Today, it's Palestine. And this land is of the most important of our lands. And we all know the stories. I won't get too much into that. But after Sayyidina Umar, who refused, by the way, when he was the Khalifa, he was the president at that time, he refused to leave Medina for any reason, because he famously said, I will die where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ died. I want to die and become Shaheed in Medina. And he would pray to Allah day and night for this to happen. But when Jerusalem was finally captured, and by the way, Sayyidina Umar was not ready for that. He gave the orders and he was reluctant. Abu Ubaida's army was nearby, ready to go, and they were rallying for Sayyidina Umar to give them the green light. Khalid's army, radiallahu anhu, was all the way in Iraq. They had the double step all the way to Jerusalem after defeating the Romans over there. After Yarmouk happened, finally, Jerusalem was opened up. 26 years. Sayyidina Umar left Medina, goes to Jerusalem, meets, I can't ever remember this guy's name, and I don't care to remember it. He was the leader of Jerusalem at that time. He goes to meet him, and he says, okay, he's coming on his camel or horse, and Sayyidina Umar is coming with his companion. Allah alam if it was his son or a companion or his servant at that time. He comes, and the leader of Jerusalem comes out, and he's confused. Like, how is this man walking and his servant is on the camel or the horse? What is this? This is the guy who just beat me? He's thoroughly confused because he does not understand our lineage. He doesn't understand where you and I come from. We come from titans and warriors. We come from people who stood above everybody else as beacons for humanity. Sayyidina Umar didn't need the status of riding on a horse. What are you talking about? Being overly falutin. This is not part of our religion. So he says, I want to start negotiating with you, O Umar, for Jerusalem. And Umar Sayyidina radiallahu anhu says, look, listen, take your leadership, the Roman leadership, and get out of here. I want you gone. You guys are excommunicado. See you later. Leave Jerusalem today. Everybody gets to leave with their own wealth. Everybody in Jerusalem keeps their businesses. People of faith keep doing whatever they want. People who are praying in the churches, let them pray. The synagogues stay. Everything is fine. Your leadership, take off and go. He was sitting there thinking, like, what are you talking about? I get to just leave? He said, Sayyidina Umar even let them take their wealth with them. Carry what you can on your caravan and get the hell out of here. That was the message from Sayyidina Umar when he opened Jerusalem. And so when he opens Jerusalem, he goes inside to pray. He sees the church of the Holy Sepulchre. If you've ever been there, you've seen it. This is a famous site for Christianity. They think this is where Jesus alayhi salam was embalmed, was wrapped, where he ended up getting buried afterwards. Allah alam, obviously we don't believe in half of those stories, but anyways, this is what they believe. Sayyidina Umar went, and if you've been there, it's kind of awesome. He ordered the masjid to be built right on the wall of this holy church, and so the adhan every single day is loud and clear. But brothers and sisters, 26 years after Muhammad ﷺ's death, Jerusalem was ours, and it was ours for like 400 or 500 years. And then 1096 comes, and the Crusades come, and they come and whoop on the Muslims. And wallahi, they destroy everything in sight. They kill every Muslim they can get their hand on, and Jew, and people of color, and whatever you are. If you're not a hardcore crusader, you're done, dead. Finito. The rivers of blood they would read in the stories were covered in Jerusalem. And the adhan was stopped. Quran was forbidden. We at least the brothers and sisters that have been fighting for their lives in the West Bank and Jerusalem and Gaza, all over Palestine, at least you can still hear the adhan. Back then you could not. Islam was wiped clean of Jerusalem. Our holiest of lands, wiped clean for 90 years. And then Salah ad-Din comes, and do you know what he does? Before attacking Jerusalem, he filters out the trash Muslims. And excuse me for being so blunt with this, because we have a lot of trash in our community. We have a lot of Muslims that weigh us down. We have traitors galore. We have people that are hypocrites. And so the leadership of the Ummah needed to be cleansed to be able to see the light of opening Jerusalem again. And again, I'm not advocating anything, by the way. This is just facts. Salah ad-Din went to war with the Seljuks, who at that time were bowing down before then and after then to the Mongols and to every hypocrite they could get their hands on. This was the leadership of our Ummah. Nothing new. We see it today. We see all of the leadership of our Ummah bowing down to the present day superpower. This is nothing new. This is why I tell you the situation of Palestine is nothing new, and this will continue, whether it's Palestine or any other land. The issue at hand is your effort. Many Muslims sat on the sidelines during the war in Iraq. Many did. And it was a travesty. Wallahi, many of us in our community called the resistance movement in Iraq or in Afghanistan, we called them terrorists left and right. Rebels and terrorists, and look what they're doing, and this and that. And they were fighting against occupation, by the way, from our hands, from our country. And many of us refused to even speak out against it out of fear. These were our American troops overseas. And this happened over here before with Vietnam, with the Korean War, in Cambodia, and the list goes on. The list goes on. Brothers and sisters, this is about our effort today. We can sit and share videos left and right and share WhatsApp messages left and right about the current situation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala demands of us effort. And if you are currently on the sidelines, crying day and night without doing anything, you're 100% part of the problem. And I love you for the sake of Allah. And wallahi, this message is for myself. But you are 100% part of the problem. Because who will free the people other than you and I? Who has that responsibility other than you and I? The leadership of the Arabs, the leadership of the Desis, the Muslims who are crooks, the United States who is a superpower. Who will free them? Who will help them? You and I. This is our tradition. Because we come from a lineage of warriors, we come from a lineage of justice, we come from a lineage of being stand-up human beings to our community. This is why. Sometimes we get caught up in the horror of everything that's happening, and we forget the larger lessons that are taking place. SubhanAllah, just yesterday, two more people became Muslim down at the dawah booths that the brothers and sisters were at, and they came to the booth wondering what was the topic. It was about Palestine. And before that, every single week, you talk to anybody that's giving dawah today, by the way, talk to any single one of them. You know what they'll tell you? They'll tell you people are becoming Muslims in the hundreds, and they have not seen this since 9/11. Sometimes we miss the larger lessons. Sayyidina Musa, alayhi salam, is walking with his friend, and he meets Al-Khidr. Al-Khidr is a man that was given special powers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I won't get into the story too much. If you can read it on your own, that would be great. But the gist of the story is that Prophet Musa is a man from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed Prophet Musa with becoming a prophet and giving him the Torah. And so he goes on this journey with Al-Khidr. And Al-Khidr is like, look, I'm paraphrasing and I'm going to talk colloquially, excuse me. You're not going to be able to hang with me. I'm going to do some stuff here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed me. I have some insight. You're not going to hang. And Sayyidina Musa practically begs the man to just let him go with him. And a child was killed. A ship was sunk. A treasure that was essentially buried under a wall was rebuilt. And the orphans were sitting there like, that was our treasure. That was our money. They didn't know about it just yet. And Sayyidina Musa was so angry. How could you do these things, Al-Khidr? How could you commit such immorality? He could not see what was happening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not let him see what was going on. He just saw the immorality and the heinous crimes that Al-Khidr was committing. Brothers and sisters, it's important not to be short-sighted in these things. We don't have knowledge. We don't have foresight. We don't know about Al-Ghaib, about what's going to happen next. And that's why it's important, again, going back to this main point of this khutbah. Effort is key. Our effort right now is key. Don't worry about Palestine. Don't worry about Iraq. Don't worry about Gaza or Beit al-Maqdis. Our worry on those things should be myself. How am I going to be judged? Not how Israelis are going to be judged, or Americans, or Abbas, or any of those other idiots that are so-called leaders. Our worry should be me. How will Allah ask me on the day of judgment, what did you do? He will take care of the rest. You are responsible for you. And so, brothers and sisters, I will ask you a blunt question before I go and sit back down for the break. Does your neighbor know about what's going on? Does your councilman know about what's going on? Do your coworkers know about what's going on? Has your position been clear in your immediate community? Because again, that's who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask you about. Your neighbor will come on the day of judgment and say, oh Allah, I lived next to this man Umar, and I lived next to this man Amir and Muhammad and all this stuff, and he never once told me that he believed in Allah. He never once told me about the plight in Palestine. He never once told me that I will be accountable on the day of judgment. That's what your neighbor will say. What is your response? Oh, well, I had a career and I didn't want to be offensive, and we lived in this country called America and blah, blah, blah. And I will tell you, good luck with that response, because that will not fly. And I think you know this. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله العظيم فيا قوم المستغفرين استغفروا ربكم إنه كان غفارا. This is the part of the khutbah where you ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I think we've all heard over the past weeks stuff that we could do. Make dua, go to a protest, write to your congressman, call somebody, this and that, and so on and so forth. But I have a plea for you, if you can indulge me, and a challenge for you, if you can indulge me. And it might hurt. It might cost you some time. It might cost you some hours. It might cost you uncomfortable, awkward moments with people. It might cost you some of that. It might even cost you your job in some instances. I have Muslims contacting me because they got fired from this company or that company for posting on their Instagram page or on LinkedIn or whatever it may be, that have been fired, and it costs them their job. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them 1 billion times in this life or the next. It's not on our timeline that we get what we want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's on His. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them tenfold and 100-fold for their sacrifice. My plea to you is, your local community starts first. Please, brothers and sisters, please call Biden all you want. Call that person, your congressman, all you want. But make sure this community in Upland, in Claremont, in Azusa, in Glendora, in San Dimas, in Ontario Ranch, and Rancho Cucamonga, this is where you're all from. This is where you live. This is the community that you're from. Go to your council member and say, hey, man, I want an hour with you. I need to sit and talk to you about what's going on. This does not make me feel good. You have that right to do that. They work for you. You pay for their salaries. The government here only functions off of your money. You have a right to demand from them whatever the heck you want. But brothers and sisters, if we're constantly screaming to the leader of Saudi Arabia and to the leader of whatever nonsense country, that's the most ineffective thing that we could do. My plea to you is, let's do something local. Host a free Palestine session over here. Host a Palestine one-on-one session with the church next door. Get to your neighbors and say, hey guys, I want to bring you over for dinner and I want to teach you about Palestine. You don't have to commit. You don't have to say anything. I just want to share with you some knowledge. Do something in your own community. Do something in your own neighborhood. Bring your coworkers to a session and chat with them about what's happening. You don't even have to know all of the facts. That's not important. Just talk about the suffering of the people. Talk about whatever other subject, by the way. More important than that, talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tell them how you believe in a true, beautiful religion. But my plea to you, my plea is the WhatsApp, ideas that everybody has. We should do this, and CARE should, and protest should, and the community should, and Bin Salman should, and all this nonsense. That needs to stop. Because if you are not part of that solution, you're 100% just part of the problem. We have many ideas in our community, and many people who are philosophers and scholars of what everybody should do. Just take some action, for crying out loud. And in your dua, my last plea is not to forget the resistance in Palestine. When I was growing up, many of you were from Claremont community or Rancho or the local masajid. We used to make dua for the mujahideen all across the world. I remember Khattab in Chechnya. I remember Sheikh Ahmed Yassin in Palestine. We used to make dua for these people because they were fighting in situations where you and I did not need to do that. You and I got to go to work and come back and have macaroni and cheese at night while they were in a situation getting bombed from helicopters. I'm not saying support any political movement. We don't need to do that, but at least support the resistance. Support the mujahideen that are on the ground, that are fighting for their lives and for their sake. That is the very least we could do, and make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the very least helps them in their aim against their enemies and against the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With that, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, please help us and guide us to the straight path. Oh Allah, we ask you to help us and guide us to the straight path. We ask you to help the people of Gaza against the injustice that's happening to them. We ask you, Allah, to help the people in Jerusalem and Palestine and Al-Quds. Oh Allah, please protect them. Please give them patience. Please give them perseverance, or give them shahada, Ya Rab, to the highest levels of Al-Jannah. Oh Allah, please help us be strong and courageous and sincere in our efforts. Oh Allah, please wake up our hearts that we are sincere and that we are doing something for your sake. Oh Allah, please help us and give us the strength and patience to believe in you and your qadr, no matter how it falls on us. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you to help the mujahideen that are on the ground all over the world fighting for your sake alone. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you sincerely to guide us and keep us on the straight path. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
Fill the front lines as much as you can. Pray shoulder to shoulder and feet to feet. Look at your lines, brothers and sisters, make sure they're straight. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair. Thank you, Brother Amir, for the wise khutbah. May Allah accept from him and allow us to take from his words. Imam Mark won't be here tomorrow, so the tafsir class and the Fajr Club is postponed till next week, inshallah. We do have also the seniors program, which is also postponed this month. It will come back in January, inshallah. They do have a special luncheon in Cerritos on Sunday. If you're interested, just see me about that. That's for the seniors, the Olive program. There's a special March for Palestine for children tomorrow being held in downtown Los Angeles. So if you have children, please bring them. It's going to be at noon at Grand Park, and there will be a march and a rally, and that's specifically for those who have children. So please bring them, inshallah, so we can do what Amir is talking about, is stand up for our brothers and our sisters in Palestine. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.